Welcome to the second of our GHC winter talks. The last one Izzy did, which was fascinating, we did over in the GHC workshop. We had 47 people there. It was a little bit chaotic. We had at least half a dozen of our loyal members of the GHC who couldn't come in, so we thought we'd do this one here. Can I just quickly, before we start, can I just have a show of hands to anybody who's not a member of the Gliding Heritage Centre in this room? Anybody? One. Nicole. Two. Three. Oh, four. I'm amazed. I reckon I had a quick count up when I came in, and I reckon sitting down there's 80 people. There's probably 90 people in this room, and if only 3 or 4 are not members of the GHC, I think we're doing a pretty damn good job, Gary. Anyway, welcome, Gordon. I think Gordon, most of us needs very little introduction. He's the Chief Technical Officer of the BGA. I know he started as an apprentice here at Lasham, Southend Aero Services, at the age of about 16.
Yep.
And there's actually examples of some of the work that he did as an apprentice in the GHC hangars now, including Richard Moyes' replica Falcon, which I believe did the
tailplane's mine, yes.
Yeah, tailplane. A number of other projects. Anyway.
17 at the time.
So no further ado, Gordon's under strict instructions, going on absolutely no longer than an hour. And that includes questions.
You said 45 minutes and questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see.
Right, well, let's enjoy this. Cheers, Gordon.
Give him that. Right, hello. Thank you. A couple of adverts just going in. I'm on what's called the OSDIV committee. And part of that work is we design all the new regulations coming forwards. Right now, you might not be aware, if you come to my pilot owner lecture maintenance, you'll be fully aware of this. We do them on Zoom, they're free, they're 9:30 till 5 throughout the winter. So come to those if you want to think about pilot owner maintenance. But part of that is crashworthiness. And we've had a few accidents recently where we've crashed, gliders have crashed, damaged the pilots, but not actually damaged the gliders. And Adrian Emp, Colin Jackson, and a few others who head up the OSDIV crashworthiness bunch of people. And what the manufacturers of the gliders want, and you'll get a survey shortly coming from the BGA for OSDIV, it'll be totally disidentified, is data from anybody who's been injured in gliders. Because all they get is minor serious dead. They actually want to know which bits of the spine did you break, all this stuff, the detail, so they can redesign the cockpits. So when you crash your JS3, break your back, but don't break the glider, we can think, shall we actually redesign a bit of it to have a bit of give in it? That sort of thing. So that'll be coming out shortly. And the other bit...
Survey for that? Sorry, but do they need a survey?
Yes, they do.
But how do you work that out without?
No, the accident reports don't have any of that data. It's all done. And it's not just here. It's going worldwide. It's not just UK. And the other thing is, next Sunday, there's a guy coming here called Dominic Newton, who you might not have heard of. He's our only new full Part 21 inspector in the last 5 years. He actually sat all the exams, passed it, went to the CA, said, what do you do with him? So they got me to interview him, and he's our newest BJ full inspector. He's coming here to tell anybody interested how to do it, what to study, what some of the questions are, and everything else. So that's here next, I think Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember which day, the 30th.
That's Sunday.
That's Sunday, right. And that'll be a 2-hour lecture, so strongly recommend you come to that. What am I here to do? I'm here to talk, Graham just said, it'll be a small personal thing, 10, 15 people, a bit about any subject you like. And as you know, I can talk for Britain, and I thought, right, what should I do? What should you do? What do people generally don't know? Now, all the aircraft engineers, inspectors in here know all this crap, so sorry, you're going to get it again. So we're going to talk about how to join broken bits. So if we have a dart like this, how are we going to put it back together? And the principles are the same, be it glass fibre, mouses, okay, glass fibre, wood, it makes naff all difference, actually. There's different materials with very much the same properties, okay? So you might be aware, darts are quite famous for having some problems. So if you did a heavy landing, there's 4 longerons going down the fuselage, one either side. Oddly enough, there's other aircraft built like that. Somebody was talking about a long ease earlier. Exactly the same construction, 4 longerons going down the side. And if you do a heavy landing, you can stretch the fuselage, break the two longerons, and have 0 damage on the outside. And there's quite a few gliders, composite gliders, with the same issues. Slightly different construction, but the same issues, where you can damage them with no damage on the outside. ASW19's much simpler. That's a simple round fuselage, nothing inside it, beautiful, easy to repair. So what's the principle of all repairs, be it wood, carbon fibre, Kevlar, anything apart from even steel tubers like this? Riveted metal repairs are the only things not covered by this thing, really. If we have a broken bit of wood, saw it in half, I glue it back together, bit of super glue. If I put that bit of wood over my knee, it'll just go snap. It won't be strong enough. If I then change how I make my bit of wood, and I splice it together over an angle, and this is a 4-to-1 splice, and that's the correct angle for balsa wood. And a lot of gliders have balsa wood in them, all the bells, kestrels, SW15s, all the wing skins, Phoebuses, the whole lot of balsa wood. If I now put this same bit of wood over my knee, it will flex a little bit. It won't actually break where it broke before. It'll probably break just either side of this. And that repair scheme's been around for 80, 90 years plus. And it works. It's approved by all the manufacturers. But everything I'm going to give you is manufacturer-approved repair schemes today. So, and you'll notice there's no extra weight. You've got the same wood. We're not beefing it up. So it's roughly the same stiffness, same weight. The only thing we've added is a bit of glue. And the reality is you can't buy a bit of balsa wood the size of a glider. So when manufacturing it, they're all joined together in bits and pieces. Okay. So what are the angles? That's a 4-to-1 splice. Spruce. Now spruce go into old British gliders. Slingsby, everything Slingsby is made of wood. The Olympias, anything British or American for that matter is generally spruce. All the cub spars, it's all spruce. If you break it and put it back together, or want to manufacture it, you can't buy trees that length and straight, it's a 15-to-1 splice. Okay. If you snap your Falk wing in half, that's got a laminated beech, unusual wood. So there's bits of beech literally glued together, and that's a 30-to-1 splice. If you've got anything German, so a K13 or Polish, like a Boschen, anything like that, that's a 20-to-1 splice. Now, for many, many, many years, the British didn't actually read any of the documents on what these things were built with. And all the German and Polish gliders were rebuilt with spruce. It doesn't appear to cause a problem. But they are slightly different woods. Gaboon wood. Gaboon's actually still used in bobbins. The whole fuselage is made of gaboon. It has many different names. It's also called mahogany wood. It's a kind of a brown colour. We'll show you some later. That's about 15-to-1. And same for birch ply. Now, aircraft quality plywood. The Rolls Royce of aircraft quality plywood is a material called German Lloyd, invented in the 1920s-ish, and it's got particularly good water capability. You can put it underwater for 24 hours, and it won't delaminate the wood or the glue. You can then take it out of the water, bend it to whatever shape you like generally, and when it all dries off, it stays that right shape. And that's what all the K13 D boxes and wings and everything are made of. There's only one lumberyard in the world that makes it, and that's in Finland. It's pretty expensive. There are British woods that aren't, they're okay, but they're not as good as German Lloyd. When we're repairing glass fibre gliders like that ASW19 you saw earlier, every manufacturer has a slightly different idea of how long the splice should be, but none of them are less than 30-to-1. Carbon fibre. Generally around about 100-to-1. So if I'm like, when I used to work at Southern Sailplanes, one of our party tricks was we had a broken discus wing with no spar on it. Because often, if you ground loops, it often just sheared the wing straight off. So you had a perfect immaculate wing with no spar on it. And of course, once you've got the left and right one, you've only got to make a fuselage in there. And the only bits missing were the spars. So we'd literally join a bit of spar. So we'd make a new bit of spar, put it on there, and the spar depth was about 3 centimetres, which meant our splice was about 3 metres along the wing. So, but it's dead easy to do. You can get a 3 metre long straight edge, sandpaper. It's not difficult. Carbon fibre is a good, easy material to work with. Kevlar. Now, imagine taking a bit of sandpaper to your jumper. That's Kevlar. It's when you're covered in resin on the outside, it looks like a proper resin covered material. The moment you get into it, it's fluffy, literally fluffy. And you can't repair it as a conventional splice angle because it just goes all fibrous and it creates a lump. which means whenever you repair carbon fibre, and it's annoying on control surfaces, you always end up with a lump, which means you have to add filler to get rid of it, make it look nice, which makes it heavier. And that's why I hate it when they do that. Also, Slikers recently are using Dyneema. They're knitting Dyneema, so your winch cables can be now knitted into cloth, and they're using it in the cockpit areas in particular to improve crashworthiness. Very similar properties to Kevlar, but a hell of a lot cheaper. And just to make it, Kevlar's yellow and so on. Steel tube. It's interesting. I've got into cars recently, and I'm rebuilding an old Discovery and that sort of thing. And it's interesting. You get a Discovery chassis and so on. Some people actually weld them back together, and they literally just butt weld them. 2 bits of metal, butt weld, seam weld down it. If I put that over my knee and hit a hammer, it will break up the weld. I'm amazed people are allowed to do this. In the aircraft world, we have a broken steel tube. We have to weld the tube at a 30-degree angle. We're not allowed to just butt it back together and weld it. And we have to have a sleeve inside it. And when we put these together, we can't put them together tightly. We've got to have an 1/8 of an inch gap. So the welder with a acetylene torch or TIG torch can get in here and weld it full depth, left and right, rather than just putting a bit of bird shit on top. So there's rules. All the manufacturers, apart from All-Star, approve this repair scheme for all their steel tube gliders, the whole lot. Okay. If you've got Blarnex or Pilateses and stuff, you go to someone like Colin Short who actually knows metal. So I have done repairs on both of those gliders, but I literally followed a manufacturer's repair scheme. I am no expert on it, but they all approve this manual, FEAC 43. And for particular size cracks or holes, you have a system of repairing it. In reality, you nearly always try and change a whole panel. So, but that's not my real expertise area. I've done a few repairs, so I've got the ticket, but the reality is I'm not as familiar with these repairs. So what does a splice actually look like? This is the mahogany ply. So it's a kind of brown colour. And you can see we've got veneers. If you look carefully, each one of these veneers has a direction. So this veneer is going this direction. This one at 90 degrees. This one this direction, 90 degrees, this one. So 5 veneers. So 3 of the veneers are going fore and aft, 2 of the veneers are going that way. Which means this bends much easier in one way than it does the other. And if you were doing a D-box of a glider, you would actually put this on the D-box at 45 degrees, which is the exact opposite to how it wants to bend. So you've got to make it really, really wet to get it to bend. So why do we do that? Because it means all the fibres are adding to the torsional rigidity of the glider. If you ever look at T-21 flying in flight, they literally just bend it round the easiest option. And that wing, above that 85, 90 knots, well, in fact, if you air it above 55 knots, the ailerons don't work. When you apply the aileron, it literally, when you apply the aileron, all it does is twist the wing. So it doesn't work. The ailerons don't work above 55, 6 knots in the T21. So on Aeroto, the best way is use the rudder. Whereas on a K13, the ailerons do work because they have a much different D-box because they put the wood on at a 45-degree angle. It's as simple as that. Yeah. The Germans are way ahead of us on that. Okay. And you can see how it's spliced. So literally, this other bit of wood, and this is called 5-ply because it's got 5 different plies. And when you join it, you literally get another piece of plywood, slap it on top, glue it together. You've got to press it at a certain pressure for a certain time till the glue goes off. And it's as simple as that. And that won't break at the repair. Okay. It does flex a bit, and there's no weight increase. Now, how does this work to glass fibre? Okay. Imagine glass fibre like wood. It's got a grain direction. You can manufacture it. And the grain directions, there's what's called unidirectional, where all the cloth is one direction only. You've got a twill leaf where it's literally over one, under one. Or you've got another one called a plane weave as well. It's exactly the same. So think of the direction of the filaments as the grain of the wood. It is exactly the same. The difference is you can choose what direction it is. So all these ones are going this way. These ones are going this way and that way. So when you're building a wing, you would actually put this at 45 degrees across the wing to give the wing more torsional rigidity, because all the fibres are doing something to add to torsional rigidity. Okay. And you saw earlier a 15-to-1 wood splice. This is a 100-to-1 carbon fibre splice. Exactly the same. This is an Arcus, by the way. And you can actually see remember the 5 veneers of plywood? Here you've got 4 veneers of carbon fibre. 1, 2, 3, 4. And each one of those veneers, if you can't look on here, it's not good enough, you can see the direction of the fibres, each one. So just like the plywood, where you had 3 veneers going one direction and 2 going the other, it's exactly the same for this. It's exactly the same. It's just a different material. Same properties, and a lot more expensive. But the only difference in this and wood is the angle. Nothing else changes. Okay? So they are literally the same. So whenever people say, oh, carbon fibre, glass fibre, if you can do wood, you can do this. And you'll find this a lot more forgiving. Carbon and glass are much, much easier repairs. Wood, if you shave a bit too much off, you're in trouble. If you shave a bit too much off the carbon, you just add a bit more. It's not a big deal. So yeah, so carbon and glass repairs are much, much easier. Okay, and when you put it on, you put the various layers on, and you try and match them to the original veneers you saw earlier. Okay. And just like the plywood, you then sand them back. So do you remember the very first picture I showed you? A bit of balsa wood joined together with a slope. This is a bit of carbon fibre joined together with a slope, flattened back. It's the same thickness, the same weight, the same stiffness as it started before. There's no weight increase in this repair. So, yeah. And it doesn't take much skill to do it. Okay. Okay. Those of you who fly PIC 20s, they have one of the shorter splice links, because what they do is they have a type of glass fibre where all the directions are one direction only. So, it's called unidirectional, so all the fibres are one direction. And they actually tell you, if you break the fuselage in half, what angle to use. They suggest you stick a bit of wood in there to act as a backer for the missing bit, which is quite normal, actually. And if you can get to the bit of wood, what you do, but after the repair, you actually put some cellophane or something on it. You do the repair, then take the wood out. If you can't get to it, you leave the wood in. Or you use another material like glass fibre. So 2 of the layers are straight up and down the fuselage. It gives it a literally vertical stability. 2 of the layers are 45 degrees, which gives the fuselage torsion rigidity. And you've got a very fine layer on the outside, really fine layer, that means when it shrinks, you don't get much shrinkage. The PIC 20 was way ahead of its time because they didn't copy the Germans. The PIC 20D has the longest fatigue life of any glider in the system, 55,000 hours it's been worked out at. And people don't realise it's fully aerobatic.
55,000?
Yeah, yeah, for its first inspection. And that's assuming 10% of it is inverted. Because it's fully aerobatic, but nobody ever does it, because they never read the manuals, but it really is. Okay. Here we have, and Richard Moyse is here, this is one of his repairs. This is a foam core repair. We've got a bit of an Airstream 20 wing here, having see that. So this is literally a sandwich. So you have an outer skin, you have 8 millimeters of foam, and inner skin. And this bit here, the bit when the splice at 30-to-1, that's 3 layers of glass fibre. That's less than less than a millimeter thick. So, okay. And if you ever tap it and hear the noise change, it's delaminating. It means the foam is coming away from the skin. And if you break the sandwich, you can see that bit joined up nice and strong. The moment you break the sandwich, it loses rigidity. And that's why dents are bad news. 9 times out of 10, dents are made purely from trestles. And anyone here from 7 sailplanes? Good. This. If you come to my lectures, we air all the manufacturer's cock-ups, all of them, trust me. This was a piece of packing tape underneath the inner skin on top of the main spar that went for 3 meters up the wing on a geodiscus. Because when I used to work for LS, building LS4s and 6s, it would be me, a German, and 3 Turks. No common language. What could go wrong? And the answer was lots went wrong, frequently. And in this case, when you have the problems like this, where that's literally glass fibre packing tape, You say, well, how should we fix your cock up? And they say, So all you can do is chase it up and fix it, and it's your problem to fix it, not theirs. It's well outside their warranty period. But these gliders are hand-built. That's the purpose. And until around about the 2000s, 2005, they all had handmade jigs and ribs and everything else. And it's fair to say the drawings were often a work of myth as to the nearest few inches of where something goes. They really were. So, I'll just show you this if I can, if it works. It doesn't. This is a pain. Oh, I can't be bothered to show you this actually. We'll come back to that. Right. So this is a SW19 aileron. Most cracks happen on the corners. So there's only 3 layers of glass fibre here. So that glass fibre splice is only 1 centimetre thick. 1 millimetre thick. And you think, how do you splice something to 30 to 1 if it's only 1 millimetre thick? And it's actually quite easy. You just get a big block of 40 grit sandpaper and carry on. And when you're skilled enough, you can actually do it with grinders, actual grinders and stuff. The problem you have is the foam core here, the bit in the middle of this wing, the whole wing is only cooked to 54 degrees centigrade. If I cook this wing to 80 degrees, that foam starts expanding and giving me problems. Now, occasionally, it can work in your favour. You can actually get rid of dents and stuff. But occasionally, if you go too far, it collapses it and causes other problems. And if you're going to put a big grinder on this and it starts getting hot, the foam expands and blows the composite straight to the glass fibre. And when people are attempting the refinishing and stuff, that absolutely destroys wings. So, but the repairs themselves are pretty straightforward. And when you have bits of foam core, the foam cores, these bits, they come in sheets of 2 by 4 metres. No, 1 by 4 metres roughly, depending on what type you're buying. And you have to join them. And you literally butt them together using microballoon. They've been proven strong enough to be literally butted together. They're such low density. But a lot of gliders, the older gliders like the Phoebus, Kestrel, ASW 15, 17, and the labels and stuff, they use balsa wood. So if you put a hole in that wing, we actually have to splice these back in at 4 to 1. And all those wings have the grain of the wood going up and down the wing span-wise. And about 20 years ago, the wind turbine companies suddenly twigged, that works. And virtually every wind turbine forest is now owned by wind turbine companies. And so you can no longer go down to model shops and buy cheap and cheerful balsa because it's really rare now. The whole lot goes into wind turbines. It's the only part of wind turbines that's actually biodegradable. But that actually lasts really well. We've got the bales built 50, 60 years ago now. No balsa problems. Everyone thought it'd go rotten, but it really hasn't yet. So how do we actually put them back together? What we do is we get a fuselage that hasn't been broken before. So this is an SW19. This particular one used to belong to Mike Evans, who's since deceased now. And you literally buy or borrow another glider. You offer them a free polish, a free annual or something, or don't even tell them at all. And you make a jig around it. You literally put something on the wing fittings, something on maybe the rudder fittings and the tail fittings, and make a jig. You support it, and you make sure you've got a gap where you actually want to do the repair. You then take the good fuselage out and put the bad one in, and get on with it. You just fill the missing bits. It really is not that difficult. It's far more difficult when you don't have another glider to play with. So say you snap a T21.5 or something. I would ideally use another T21, but say you didn't have one to hand, you're going to have to use the drawing. Did they match the drawings? No. I did a label once, and old man Mike Fripp wouldn't let me use another glider. So we fixed it as per the drawing. When we went to put it back in the trailer, we found it a centimetre longer than the original. So drawings are notoriously inaccurate, and we did it to the drawing, but in failures, they weren't built to the drawings. So this, I think it's a work of art. This is a discus belly, And the discus belly has a really thick type of glass fibre. Imagine, really thick 3mm of plywood. This is what a discus belly is. It's quite thick. It has a type of glider called 92140. And each one of these layers, there's four. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you can see here, there's a small white patch in the middle here. And that's because there's a frame inside that's broken. And this is a club discus when I still work for Lasham. And we're going to repair the skin, and they repair the frame from the inside, in fact. But it's quite hard to see some of these damages occasionally, and they're quite easily missed. So that's all prepared. This is about 40 to 1 splice angle. So before it's put on. This is the back end of a discus we were repairing a long time ago. And exactly the same glass fibre, but they've doubled the layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Because all you do, you just slap more layers in the mould. Simple as that. Yeah, it really is. Once you've got a mould, it's very, very simple method. In this case, we actually put a glass fibre back in here, super glued in place. And this was a really easy one. It's one of these rare discuses without a tail wheel in it. And what we do is over these areas where there's foam core, we actually vacuum it down as well. We actually put a vacuum bag over that bit. Okay. So what does glass fibre look like? Glass fibre comes in a roll. If I was to get this bit of glass fibre, fold it really sharply in a book or something, I will start breaking the fibres in it. Okay. It's strong, but it's not, bulletproof. This is what a pick wing looks like, but it's identical to most other wings. So I love the pick manuals because they're actually quite clear, unlike all the other manuals. So you've got the outside. Now, the company that made the picks were very clever. They painted it with polyurethane from the start. They never had gel coat. It's a really fine layer of glass fibre. And now there's a layer of glass fibre unidirectional going this way across the wing at a 45-degree angle. Another one going at 90 degrees the other angle. Now, where they're different to most other gliders is the foam core here was a slightly higher density than most other foam cores, and it's 2mm thicker. Most glider wings have 8mm foam cores. This actually has a 10cm foam core. If you have a Pucats, that has a 6mm foam core. And of course, if you have Lebel, they generally had 8mm foam balsa cores instead. And the balsa cores are significantly stronger. And easier.
So the whole core is balsa?
Yeah, on Lebel, yeah. Kestrels, Lebels, Phoebus, yeah, the whole lot. Yeah. The whole fuselage on a Phoebus is balsa as well. Yeah. This is carbon fibre, and it comes on a roll. You're not allowed to fold it. It will snap. Very brittle material, quite easy to work. When you're laying it up, you generally use rollers and brushes and stuff on it, because if you put a hard metal scrape on it, you can quite easily just break all the fibres. So, about 35 years ago, there was a Sliker agent, before Pete Wells got it. I think one of the reasons he lost the agency is when you ordered a couple of square metres of carbon fibre, it arrived in an A4 envelope. And you took it out, and about 10 pieces fell out. So, but again, carbon fibre is a very easy material to work. It really is. So as long as you obey a few rules. Okay. Kevlar. The industry chooses to make it yellow. And it's not particularly strong in compression. If you compress it, it's not a particularly strong material. It's fantastic in tension. So in a perfect world, if you were to make a glider out of the perfect material, what would it be? You'd probably have a carbon fibre lower spar cap, probably metal upper cap. And a pair of Poundland scissors won't cut this. It's really, has anyone here done Dyneema repairs on winch cables? Those of you who have, you probably realise it's not such an easy material to cut. And this is about 10 times worse. It's so tough, it just folds between the blades of a pair of scissors. Unless they're really good, high quality, sharp, tight scissors. I wish we wouldn't use it so much because it's so hardware. You can't repair it without a weight increase. You can repair it, but you can't do it without a weight increase. This is chop strand mat. Please don't ever use this in gliders. Canoes, flower pots, that sort of stuff. We do have private owners who genuinely go to Halfords, buy the polyester resins and this stuff, and try and repair gliders with it. So don't. Okay. I mean, A, it's very heavy. B, it's literally randomized, material. It's literally 10 times the weight of a normal glass fibre. And even if you fold this, it also breaks. for all the same reasons the other ones does. So, okay. This is what carbon fibre looks like. So when you see a cloth, carbon fibre cloth, it's this that's been woven into a cloth. That's literally how it starts life. So you have little bits of string, rope, and they weave it into a cloth very carefully without breaking it on the way. So if you see a carbon fibre main spar, these are the, where did I put it? Okay, the bit, right here, the spars are mostly eye sections. So the bit here is literally the spar cap. This is glass fibre spar cap, and that's carbon fibre spar cap. The method of construction hasn't changed since the fibres were built, really, back in the 60s. Whereas if we get, I think it's a K6 main spar, you can see it's not quite an eye section. You've got big laminated bits of wood. And if you have a look at this, you'll see laminations of bits of wood in here. House Like has made it, but it's more of a box bar. And there's various vents in here, so as it goes up, it doesn't explode with altitude and stuff like that. So if I have to repair this spar, and I've done it before, one of the K-15s here, we had a wing snapped in half, that would be a 20-to-1 splice up the side here. And what we were able to do was literally get another wing, cut it off in the right place, and we just literally slotted it on that 20-to-1 angle. That's what we did for that repair. So in actual fact, we were able to find an original splice from manufacture. So it virtually wasn't repair. We literally just rebuilt it the way it was before, with the splice exactly where it was before. And it can be done, particularly if you have drawings. But drawings are notoriously inaccurate. Glass fibre comes in a roll like this. These are called glass fibre rovings. So this is turned into the cloths you see, so on. I mean, this is made of polyester, this jumper, I guess. If I put resin in it, it'd be quite a strong material, I think. But they choose to use glass fibre rather than Kevlar and stuff, or other materials. Let's talk a bit about spar repairs. Because when people started doing glass fibre, carbon fibre spar repairs, they just thought, oh, well, I'll just slap more glass fibre on it. At whatever angle I think is appropriate. And the problem is, with these repairs, if the glass fibre is going up, oops, I need better mouse control. Come on, mouse. Don't darn me. What we need to do is get a projector so you can put the computer somewhere near where you're doing it. Okay. Mm-hmm. Come on. Actually, I think I'm. I think. Not yet. Have we unfrozen it? Not yet.
Something happened there.
Uh-huh. Not that. Right. Is that working? That's okay. Great. Okay. And what they did was, I'll go back to where we were. Okay. What they found was, if they just laid more carbon fibre into this and ground it flat, you could never achieve 100% strength. The best you could achieve about 75% strength. Now, for 30 or 40 years, that's the repair scheme all the manufacturers approved. We did it. None of them unpeeled yet. But back in about 1980, when it came to glass fibre, Bristol University actually did some testing, some formal testing. And these are the best strengths they were getting on carbon fibre at Bristol University. The best they could get, with 80-to-1, they were able to achieve, well, at 50-to-1, they could achieve about 77% strength. But bear in mind, they were using Vega spars, which were very variable in build quality. They really were. So they actually gave up in the end and started making their own spars. Because, yeah, the effect said the build quality of Vegas weren't the best. So what they then figured out was, rather than actually just laying material in there, if we treat it as a wood repair, so if we made a spar and actually did our 100-to-1 splice, or whatever angle we did, and just laid it in there like a bit of wood, so what's called a dry-on-dry repair, we were back up to 100% strength. So you literally have to do the same repair scheme in wood you do in glass fibre or carbon fibre when it comes to main spars. It's the only way you can achieve 100% strength. And here you can see that. They actually found if you actually lengthened the repair, you could actually make it actually stronger. But you don't want that, 'cause you don't want it bending different places, do you? So, yeah. And it's amazing how many gliding manufacturers still don't know this. So what do we build gliders with? We build them with, in this case, epoxy resins. Now, there are a few different types, and most of the gliders, older gliders, built until about the year 2000-ish, were built with an old obsolete resin called 162-113. And what that means is if you break a main spar, say on an old K1, Slikers will not let you repair it because you can't buy the same resin it's built with. Because the theory goes that these might have slightly different expansion coefficients. So hence we can't do spar repairs to old gliders. All the manufacturers agree on this principle. It's a problem for doing old spar repairs. So most old spar gliders, when you actually snap them in half or snap the wings in half, you can't repair them. When it comes to actually the cloth repairs, they're much happier. You can use old resins, but not new resins with the old ones. And this resin, when you buy it, comes with a use by date. It's about a 4-to-1 mixing ratio, depending on what system you're using. And the resins are only good to the temperature they've been cooked to. So if I was to make a wing in this room here, it's probably at 15, 20 degrees at the moment, and I'll come back tomorrow, it's all set, take it out in the mould, it's fine at this temperature. Let's take it to 40 degrees. The whole lot will go soft and floppy. It's no good to us, because it has to be good for at least the temperature. So the law says, since the mid-1960s, gliders must tolerate a temperature of 54 degrees centigrade. So after every glass fibre glider is built, or wooden glider for that matter, for a shy glider and that sort of thing, they bake the whole glider at 54 degrees for 15 hours. That's the law. Wood glue. Interesting enough, in the UK we haven't traditionally we've always used Aerodux glues, but not this particular version of it. We've always used a different version, but they've now made it obsolete. And the conversation with Slikers went along the lines of, oh, we can't buy a glue. What glue do you use? Oh, this one. Huh? Use this one. This is the glue we're meant to use. It's called Aerodux 185, and it comes with a powder hardener. So for a lot of people in the UK, that's been quite a big change, because you can't buy the old glues. This is a resorcinol resin, very old, extremely waterproof, chemically inert. You can put paint strippers on here, anything you like, you're not going to damage it. It's great stuff. It's actually designed for boats, about 70, 80 years ago. It's really good stuff, extremely toxic in terms of its smell and everything else. But there is nothing better than this. Okay. So why can these gliders be different colours? Well, I like the pigs. You can order them bright green, bright yellow, bright orange, and I love them. I'd say the fins were way ahead of the time. It's because when you built the glider, in the moulds and jigs, they cook them 68 degrees centigrade. That allows them to make them different colours. Slikers will still make you an ASG32 in different colours, because they cook at 68 degrees in the moulds. You can't do it unless it's in all the moulds and jigs it's built with. Because when it goes up above 54 degrees, it will change stiffness, bend, and wherever it sets, it sets. A lot of gliders that get sent to Australia in the 70s and 80s, if somebody put a clamp on an aileron, often in the container, especially going over the equator, it got very, very hot in the containers. And often the ailerons and bits came out very different shapes to the way they went in. So it's important, if you're going to ship anything worldwide, do make sure how you clamp things, because if you get to above 54 degrees, it will go soft and squidgy. So, here we have a colour chart, actually. This is courtesy of Guy Westgate. He puts lots of stickers on top of his aircraft, which causes the occasional argument with the CAA and the manufacturers of the gliders. So he went to India, sat next to a swimming pool with all different colours, and the outside air temperature at the local airport was 33 degrees. And the coldest colour was bright, shiny silver. Now, all the gliders traditionally go with white. There is no reason with a polyurethane finish we can't paint our gliders simply metallic silver. No reason whatsoever. So if any of you think of buying brand new gliders, have the conversation. So, they won't like it because all the regulations and rules say it will be white. But technically there's no reason why not. But you can see if you painted it black, it goes too hot. Interesting enough, we've got a guy who works for AR, so Janus Neumann, and he was at the American World Championships, I think last year. Yeah, and I think they had one day where it's 47 degrees on the grid. And he did some basic maths and said, well, hang on, white, these gliders at 54, 55 degrees, perhaps they shouldn't fly. And he was bundled off quickly out the way. But he had a point, and technically, a lot of the engines that were self-launching with had temperature limits, and obviously massively exceeded those. So how do we do it? If we're fixing an Arcus, we literally copy an Arcus. So we literally stick it in our jig. This was done in Turlet. And you put spar fittings, put your fittings in it, put tail fittings in it. And what you can do is, if it's a current production glider, say you just snap it here, it's far easier just to buy a new back end. It'd be about 10, 15,000 euros, but it's not your money. And you can then choose where to do the join. In some area where you haven't got control guides or anything in the way. And the gliders are literally made like an Airfix kit. You have a male and female. And what you do is when you manufacture the glider, you have the male section, and you actually put all the control rods and everything else in one side of the fuselage only. And then you literally get the other half of the fuselage, you glue it on top, and there's a little flange join that overlaps literally by about 5 centimetres like that. And so you make the fuselage in two halves and join it. Unless you have a Kestrel, whereas they made it top and bottom, but just to be different. So the only gliders that vary slightly was the SW12 glider, which there has been one here before. On that glider, they made a whole fuselage out of balsa. They used templates to actually get the balsa shape. They skinned it with glass fibre, then they scooped out the balsa, leaving about a centimetre or two inside it, then put glass fibre on the inside. No moulds at all.
And then glued it together. And then glued it together.
No, the whole lot was glued together. It's built in one big unit. And all the LS, I used to know Wolf Lemke, and all the LS1, LS2, LS3 prototypes were built the same way. Same for the wings. Actually, they used balsa. And they were able to fly the balsa wing, or fuselage, whatever it was, and if it worked, that became the mould. Whereas nowadays, you design it, you send it off, get it CNC machined, that makes the plug, you then make the moulds, you then make the wing, you then break the wing, because the regulations now require you to break the wing, or whatever it is, and go from there. So most of these repairs are surprisingly simple. It'll take about probably a day to jig this up properly. People have different jigs at Southern Sailplanes. We used to use wooden jigs that were bonded to the floor. So if you tripped over it, you weren't going to lose the fuselage jigging. And that's where all the resin went. And the factories, we just put them back in the moulds. And it is really quite simple. And then they're putting the broken half back in, literally putting it in, and they're being very careful to make sure they put the jigging stations where the brake isn't. So, but it'll take one person probably about 3 weeks to do this repair. So, yeah, it's quite good money actually, if you've got something like an Arcus. Okay, and what they're doing there is literally getting the back end, and they're going to butt one side of the fuselage together, join it together, and they're going to put a bit of glass fibre inside it just to make it a bit neat and tidy and hold it together. So, there's a video on this made by a company called Turlet in Holland. It's on Vimeo. You have to sign into Vimeo. But if you sign to Vimeo and search for Arcus Repair Turlet, you'll find this video. It's all set to music. So, and that's the left side of the fuselage put back together, using that carbon to one splice earlier. So this is not much work, okay? Inside, it's quite busy nowadays. Most modern gliders, like an Arcus, inside the fin, you've got a GPS aerial, ADS aerial, FLAM aerial, transponder aerial, Mode S aerial, VHF comms aerial. So you've got about 5 or 6 aerials in the back of the glider. And this glider actually had a mid-air collision to one the previous accident to this one. And the consensus was a lot of the problems were the aerials were being blocked by the carbon fibre fin. And there's a team in Austin right now working on the best way to build a really strong fin without shielding all the aerials. Because it's a challenge right now. Once you use carbon fibre to give you the rigidity of the fin, but it kills aerials. And quite a few people I'm aware now are putting Starlink in their glass fibre gliders because they won't work in anything else. But on this particular pair, they've joined everything in one place. When I was at Southern Sailplanes, we wanted that. We spent a few days extra and we'd just route new cables through everything. But it added 3 or 4 days to the pair. But, and then they literally slap the male side back in there, splice it in, and then they have to cook it. And when you cook it, you don't cook the whole glider because you don't have the jigs for the whole glider. That's all. So you just cook the repair. So when you buy a new back end, it actually comes already cooked. So all you have to do is cook the repair. So you literally go to B&Q, buy some foam, slabs of foam, tape it all together. I don't know, Graham used to work for me a bit at Southern Sailplanes. Remember us doing that? Yeah. And you cook it for 15 hours. But you don't have to do it in one hit. You'd be a brave person to leave these heaters on overnight because I don't trust them. So you often do it over like a 2 or 3 day period. And the regulators, the CA don't know much about how to do this job, but they do know in the big airliner world, they have to be post-cured. Post-cured is when you cook it after repair. Because that's what Boeing's are exactly the same, no different. But they're 160 degrees, that's the difference. So when we do this, we actually have to give them a temperature trace proving we kept it at the right temperature for the prerequisite time. That's now part of the work pack and details, compliance. So what's the difference between this and, say, a Formula One car or an airliner or fighter jet made with modern carbon material? The actual methodology is identical. The difference is, though, they use what's called pre-preg materials. And if they buy materials that are literally pre-impregnated, they put them into their molds, and they cook them at 160 degrees. Much higher. I mean, we're now talking at burning pizza temperatures for quite a few hours. When that means all the molds and jigs have to go to 160 degrees. And that's, in terms of tooling, quite a big ask. Because whatever you're building has to expand and contract with the jig or the mold. And they're all vacuum formed. So you need to put it in an oven at 160 degrees. And it might be a 30, 40 foot long part. So you're looking at an oven the size of this room quite easily. And it has to be pressurized to 15 degrees, 15 psi at least, that sort of area. So, in terms of tooling, you can quite expensive. If you ever go to down there, South Down Aero Services company down there, they've got some massive ovens that are much bigger than this room actually, or did have, I don't know if they still have. Because they were making bits for Airbus and stuff like that, and so on. And if you did that, you could actually make a glider 25% lighter and stiffer. So on. But it would be virtually impossible to repair unless you had the tooling. So they don't tend to repair them, they tend to replace them. But it can be done. It can be done. So, a lot of people don't realise the K6 has a glass fibre back end. This one, the owner drove into the tailplane, I think. Is the owner here? I can't remember who it was now. Yeah, it was Jim Pritchard, you're right. Yeah, and the rest of the syndicate were pissed off of him. It didn't break anything. Okay. And what happened, it unbonded the glass fibre and the wood, the frame there, but it didn't actually damage anything, it just wasn't stuck together. You couldn't just glue it back together, it was impossible to get in there. So what we had to do was take the wood off, do a 15-to-1 splice, take the glass fibre off, do a 40-to-1 splice, and that's why you can see the glass fibre repair is much bigger than the wood repair. So, and then once you've done it, you've got to cook the whole lot at 54 degrees centigrade for 15 hours. But that's principally for the glass fibre. The glue's a lot more forgiving. If you have a K6E, by the way, chances are it has an awful lot of slop in it because these bearings haven't been changed in 60 years. So if you ever need to do that, you literally just take the end cap off this. You put some bits of string around your tools, you are going to drop them. You undo the nuts and bolts in here, you undo the rudder hinge, that'd be rusty as anything. The bearings are dirt cheap. They're what's called a standard part. You can buy it from anywhere and so on. And if you come on my Pilot's Owners course, we teach you how to do this stuff. Or show you how to do this stuff. And this is literally how we make a wing. This is straight off the Sliker website. So the way it used to work was me, the German, and 3 Turks will build the lower surface in the morning. The team 5 of us. In the afternoon, we build a top surface. Somebody else builds a main spar. And we come back Tuesday morning, and we get some very fast setting letterbox resins, and we glue some flanges in, these bits here, flanges in place, and all the control systems. Somebody comes along and checks they're actually done up, hopefully. And then by the end of Tuesday, we then put the top surface one straight onto here. Now, it causes problems because when you do this, you have no access to the wing. So often you have excess resin dribbling out. Because you don't want too little resin, but again, you don't want too much. So what they do on most gliders, they actually put bits of foam core in them to catch the foam. And I don't know if this, on the S320 wing, you can see this white foam here and here. And the reason they put that there is so when the excess resin drips out, it forms quite often sharp tendrils. So if it's in the front of the wing, it doesn't actually burst the water ballast bags. It really would cut them. On the back of the wing, it doesn't fall on controls and cause FOD. So, but the foam, once it's built, is just dead. And it's literally just polystyrene foam. Would you believe the back ends of Nimbus 2s and Astirs are made of polystyrene foam? Absolutely true. And if you cook that to 80 degrees, it melts. So when you're post-curing it, you really go to 54 degrees and no more. It has different properties. It's not called polystyrene, but it is identical to polystyrene. And that is an ASG29 wing. Now, compared to this ASG20 wing, the build quality is better. Because you probably can't see it very well. There's a massive, about 3 or 4 meters line of resin here. Because in those days, these were handmade. This mold was made in 1976. And in those days, no CNC machining. It was all done by hand tools. So they always made spars and ribs smaller than the wing. And they filled up the gaps with resin to guarantee you could always squeeze it in there. It was always going to fit. With modern CNC machining, much higher quality. And so on. No excess resin. Much faster. Now, there's 2 ways of building a main spar. I'm not even sure I'll show you the other one in this lecture. This is a standard I-beam, and Slykers do it this way, and I think Shemps don't do it this way. I think Yonkers do it this way as well. They build the spar off the job and put it in, because it's guaranteed good quality. You can check it before you put it in there. The problem they have is the wing, the spar is too big for the wing. So have you noticed they occasionally have issues with shrinkage either side of the spar? And that's why they have to cut away some of the foam to get the spar in there. And when they say, oh, don't know why it happens, yeah, they know exactly what happens. And 20 years ago, I had a conversation with them. You're doing it wrong. Go back to balsa, you'll fix all your problems. And to be honest, Yonkers very nearly did that, but they couldn't get it in the quantities required. Because if they placed the foam with balsa, you would actually solve all the shrinkage problems. There wouldn't be any. But you can't buy it in the quantities required anymore because the wind turbine industry sucked it all up. So when you're getting shrinkage either side of the spars, that's why. No wonder cure for it. And when I say these are hand-built, these are hand-built. They really are. This is what a 29 wing looks like going together. As you can see, it's going into there. And you can see there, they've scalloped out the skin to take the spar. And there's a different type of spar on this. This is an Astir. Now, Astirs and LS did it slightly differently, and DGs did it differently. Rather than making a spar and putting it in separately, they put the spar cap, this bit, into the wing skin, top and bottom, and they put a U-bracket on it and just slot it together. So that saves a lot of weight, gives you roughly the same strength, and makes it much quicker and cheaper to build. But you can't inspect it once you've built it. So if you cock it up, that's a problem. I'm not sure on this one I'm doing. On my other lectures, I actually show you some of the cock-ups. So on. Oh, here we do. I do show you the cock-ups. Right. This is an Astir wing. So it's meant to be an eye section. So you can see at the bottom here, it's a nice eye section. At the top here, you can see it's mist. And I almost certainly help make some LS4 wings like this. And what's happened? The reason it happened is when you put the foam core into the mould, unless you have a nail or something to hold it in place, there's nothing to stop you. The mould's bent like this. There's nothing to stop this slipping back a few millimetres or a few centimetres even. We've got nothing in the mould to tell us it's in the wrong place. And there's no templates, no tooling, no quality control to measure this. So, and that's exactly what happened. And when Steve Jones was doing the military grobs, the shut as they called it, putting them back into service, one of the issues they had was when he found wings with this problem, because they had to go inside the wings and have a look, it's a case of, well, it's an L shape, it's no longer an I section. And the MAA, because the military actually paid for the aircraft to be essentially redesigned, the best way of describing it, they actually did the maths on it, and actually they had enough margin to ignore the problem. So, okay. But modern gliders, when people say, why are modern gliders so much more expensive than the old ones? It's quality. You compare the quality of the tooling now compared to how they did it then, and the quality control en route, it costs more money. And it's also crashworthiness. Anything built since 2009 is way more crashworthy. But it's on. And trestles. Most dents come from trestles, I'll suggest. And I finish every lecture with, what's the perfect trestle? Now, this isn't the perfect trestle. The perfect trestle won't have an overhang where you stick it on the wing, it falls off. It will have a very wide top to spread the load, get rid of dents. Ideally, you'll have a flat bit in the middle, so you can actually put a wing upright on there or turn a wing over on the trestle. If you're going to put a wing upright, you must put a clamp or something across a bit of wood, hold it upright, they fall over very easily. And ideally, you won't probably have this bit here, so when you turn it over on the trestle, you don't gaunch the leading edge. And you make it so heavy, nobody can nick it. And I won't show you this video, but it's I can show you in sections if you're interested. This is literally how to repair an Arcus, snapped in half. But they put it to music. And I strongly recommend you can go to Vimeo and download it and have a look, and it goes through the processes. There's some parts of the process I completely disagree with. To give you some idea, if I go play there, here it is, car body filler, huge amounts of car body filler put on the repair. All the manufacturers do it. And what I will say is the majority of repairers don't. They don't use car body filler. If you use car body filler, do you notice that a lot of gliders get a bit of osmosis along the spines? Top and bottom, around the wing roots, that sort of thing. Anyway, they put this car, it's just polyester filler, car body filler. It's a particular brand called Silo because it's white, which means it's easier to hide. And it's slightly lighter weight than some of the others. So if I was going to do this, we'd actually put a filler in it called microballoon. And mix the epoxy resin with it. So it does two things, and we do it before we post-cure the glider. Before we cook the glider, we put the filler on it then. And if it's epoxy microballoons, it expands and contracts at the same rate the rest of the glider does. And it's absolutely fixed.
Gordon, if you've got the bubbling on it, an aircraft like a Duo, what's the best remedy?
Take it to Spain, or rip it out and start again.
Okay.
There is no cure. If you take it to Spain, when I met Clive Mansfield had an Nimbus 2, he took it to Spain. After 3 years, all the blisters became craters. Low humidity storage is the answer. And the Germans say it's an English problem. And to a degree, they're right. If you have low humidity storage, you wouldn't have the problem. So, yeah. Right, and that's about it. Any questions for this? Okay. Actually, just quickly, an advert. I do run, on behalf of the BJA, my employer, free to attend pilot owner maintenance courses. These are quite long courses. They start at 9:30 in the morning, finish at 5 on Zoom. You're all very welcome to, whenever we're running them, sign up to the BJA website and attend. So on. And we're full of lots and lots of glider particular maintenance tips and stuff like that, and what to do. But it's aimed at safety, because what we're finding is, due to lack of engineers, when you break something, often it keeps on flying because there's no one left to look at it, almost. And what we want to do is teach owners how to find their own damage. And so the course is actually aimed at how to find your own damage, so, which we're getting very good at. So, and we literally air all of our missed damages where things were flying, we missed it, to you lot. We don't put it in public. So on. Many of them quite critical because some of it's caused by less than brilliant design or quality, so by the manufacturers. So, but yeah. So any questions at all? Come on.
How do you control the temperature at 54 degrees? What kind of setup are you using?
There's many ways of doing it. If I'm just doing a small repair, say repair this size, and it's just a skin repair on the outside, what I would do is I can put, when I'm doing the final layer of glass fibre, I can put something on it called tear strip. And you rip it off, it's all ready for some. And I then can just literally just paint that black, and I put foil around the rest of it, shiny foil, and I use a heat lamp. And I put a cooking probe that Graham got me once on it that does temperature, and you literally test the temperature. And that's for small repairs. For big repairs, we have big heat, just literally blower fans, cheap and cheerful blower fans, which often don't last 15 hours. You spread the love in the oven you build yourself. If you've got a whole wing, we generally don't need to do whole wings because they're done in factories. So, but you might have to build an oven that's 3 or 4 meters long. Yeah, so it's all a bit Heath Robinson, and you have quite a few temperature sensors in it.
Gordon, where we've done wings, we've basically put roofing foam or felt of insulation round the outside of the trailer. We've stuck the wing in the trailer, we've put a fan heater and a temperature controller in there and walked away from it.
Yeah, that works, yeah. Yep.
If we put it simplistic, if you want to put a small bracket onto a wing for, say, a permanent camera mount, how would you glue it on?
Epoxy resin, the same resin the guy's built with.
So it has to be the same resin as the wing, or
yes.
It's got to be the same as the wing.
Well, it'd be an epoxy resin that we the one I showed you probably, yeah. Because that way it will expand and contract at roughly the same rate.
So it is literally a matter of just gluing it on.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to take the gel coat off, get back down to the epoxy cloth itself, because nothing sticks well to the polyester. They're chemically very different. So, but yes, you literally remove the polyester gel coat or acrylic finish, whatever it is, and bond it on. Yeah.
Excuse me, Gordon. You mentioned earlier about small indentations.
Yes.
Usually in the lower skin. What's the easiest way to get rid of those?
Right. Depending on what sort of foam you're using. So it doesn't work on Vigas. Duo. I would actually pour boiling hot water right in the middle of the dent.
Won't affect
But it causes shrinkage.
Yeah. Won't affect the gel coat.
Yeah, it might take slightly. Now, on polyurethane finishes, there's an issue. Because when you put gel coat on a glider, the gel coat generally has been cooked to 54 degrees centigrade. When you paint a glider with polyurethane, it's not been baked. Now, if you get a car repaired, whenever it goes into a paint shop, the first thing they do, before they do anything, is they bake the paint. They get a big heat lamp out and bake the paint at 60 odd degrees, quite high. Gliders don't get that. Which means our acrylic and polyurethanes behave slightly differently. So I'm not sure. So far, I've not seen one have a problem. But there can be. But whenever you're taking the resins beyond their original temperature, because what you're going to do, by the time you're trying to get into the middle of the dent, expand it to about 80 degrees and push it out. It's not an exact science. It can go wrong. But generally, we've done some very, very, very 10-foot long dents, which the insurance company thought were going to cost 15 grand to fix. We actually did it in an afternoon. But it's high risk. Yep.
When you do composite repairs, are they always done as a wet layer, or do you actually use vacuum bagging or something?
No, you often do vacuum bagging. So if you're going to do a big skin area, I mean, if I had a 2-foot hole and hit this wing, what I would do, and this one's made of balsa, I would get another wing, make a mould, and make a new wing skin. And for that, you'd have to vacuum bag it into place. Yeah. Right.
We're done.
Any more?
Excellent. Well,
good stuff.
Flash, thank you. Gordon, excellent. Thank you.
On time? Almost.
I just got to do a bit of selling.
A couple of things, by the way. Hang on, before Graham gets involved. If you want to know anything about wood repairs, the best book to get is Workshop Practice. This is all proved by all the manufacturers. A really good book. It's not a cheap book. And when it comes to composite repairs, all the manufacturers approve this book. but don't use the composite repairs in this book. They approve it, but they're really not good quality repairs. They're all quite heavy and stiff. That's one. Yeah. So, yeah.
Right, so I wouldn't be forgiven by Gary if I didn't point out that we've got a little merchandise table at the back. The guys that aren't members of the GHC, come and see me with your smartphones in the bar afterwards. And we can soon remedy that. And we'd love donations. We've still got, although we've had a donation, a very generous donation recently, we've still got our hangar extension to build. And Gary's got the sum up machine because no one carries cash these days, but no excuses, you've all got your phones with you. And thank you, Gordon, once again. Superb.
You're welcome.
One final thing, the next lecture, we don't do one in December, so January, there's the Fandy Darlington is going to do a talk on the Farnborough F1 Kestrel project that he's involved
That'd be awesome, yeah.
a few years ago, about 15 years ago. I think that's on the 23rd of January. But you're all members of the GHC except a couple, and we'll send all those.
Yeah.
It'll be in here.
Yeah, and on the 30th next week, we've got Kai coming in here to talk to you about how to actually get a licence and do exams and that sort of stuff. So.